Trevor, the traction engine, was feeling depressed. He couldn't breathe properly. "Your boiler needs mending," said his owner, the vicar, "but I can't afford it in present." Then, the vicarage telephone rang. The vicar quickly answered it once he walked into his office. Then he hurried out to see Trevor. "You may be a bit under the weather, but you can manage this," he said. "The farmer has a tree down and wants you to saw it up for him." When Trevor had steam, they went to the farm and set to work in a field near the railway. Thomas passed by with Edward's coaches. He whistled cheerfully, and Thomas set off into the distance. Edward liked freight cars and had been delighted to let Thomas have his coaches for a while. When Edward passed later that morning, he was pulling freight cars with a sort of tent over them. These are used for carrying china clay. The men called them hoods. Later that day, Thomas arrived at the docks to talk to Ari and Bert. "Why hoods?" asked Thomas. "Hoods are those things like tents," explained Ari. "They keep the clay dry," added Bert. "Wet clay goes in the tanks." But to Trevor, they were simply freight cars. He was enjoying himself. The only thing he liked better than sawing logs was giving children rides. He chuntered happily as the pile of logs beside him grew. Edward returned with some empty freight cars as he passed the place where Trevor was working. "That feels like a loose rail," said Edward. "I'd better tell the maintenance people." At the docks, Edward exchanged the empty freight cars for full ones. And they set off for the junction again. Trevor dozed. The autumn wind had dropped, and it was comfortable in the autumn sunshine. It seemed no time at all before he heard Edward coming back. Trevor whistled a cheerful greeting. He was watching Edward, and so did not see some of his freight cars. Two at the end sink, jump, and shudder. Just as the place, Edward felt a weakness in the line. Sparks flew, a freight car wheel jammed, and with a crack, a coupling broke. The last two freight cars and the brake van lurched and bumped and stopped. The guard, safe in his brake van, blew the whistle. Edward, far in front, didn't hear it. And hurried on without realizing what had happened. Trevor was closer to the brake van. Then Edward heard a whistle and looked back and see the freight cars lying at strange angles. "Stop, Edward!" whistled Trevor in horror. Edward heard that. it's Trevor, he cried anxiously. What's wrong? We'd better see, said his driver. The fireman climbed onto the tender. Phew, he exclaimed. Look, it's not Trevor, it's us. The guard went to protect the train, and the fireman went to the farmhouse to telephone for help. So the breakdown gang soon arrived. Sir Topham Hatt came to see Trevor. I've heard about your boiler, and because you saved a nasty situation, you're to go to the works to be mended. Would you like that? Oh, sir, said Trevor. Thank you. Trevor felt like the happiest tractor in the world.